Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars, and it's time for a Luthier's Quick Tip.
If you'd like to help support this channel, visit eguitarplans.com and buy a plan. Now on with the video.
Hey guys, you're watching another Quick Tips for Luthiers, and this week I'm going to talk about some of the accessories that you're going to need to consider when assembling your small shop spray system. Now, in the last two episodes, and I'll put a link up here to a playlist for those episodes, I talked about selecting a compressor as well as a spray gun. But there's more to it than that. You're going to need some additional items to get everything put together. So let me bring you in closer and I'll describe what those items are. Now, the first item that I would recommend is a regulator. That's this dial and knob item here. And what this will do is it allows you to adjust the PSI of your incoming air right at the gun. Now, most compressors will have a regulator built into it. However, having one at the gun is more convenient. It allows you to adjust that PSI as you're test spraying to get the gun adjusted properly. And that means you don't have to keep walking back to your compressor, which can be kind of a pain, especially if your compressor is located a fair distance away from where you're going to be spraying. So pick up a regulator, and that will allow you, like I said, to adjust that PSI right at the gun. It's a convenience item. The next accessory I'm going to discuss is filtration. It's really important to make sure that the air that's entering your spray gun is dry and clean. And to do that, you're going to need some filtration. However, this is where things kind of get confusing because there's so many different types of filters out there. The choice is going to depend upon the type of compressor you have and the environment that you're working in. Okay, so if you're using a compressor which requires the addition of oil, you're going to want an oil filter. And that will filter out any tiny little oil particulates that can contaminate the air that's entering the spray gun. And that will happen. That's just how those type of compressors work. If you're using an oilless compressor, you don't really have to worry about filtering out oil because there's not going to be any present in the line. Regardless of what type of compressor you're using, you are going to have to consider a moisture or water filter. And that's because condensation inside the tank can turn into water vapor as it travels through the hose and into your gun. And that can, again, mess with the chemistry of what you're trying to spray. So at the very least, you're going to need to have a water filter. And if you're using a compressor that requires oil, you're going to also need an oil filter. Now, I'm using just a small, simple, inexpensive filter here, which is capable of filtering out both water and oil. I can get away with something like this because my compressor uses very little oil and I'm working in an environment that's extremely dry. If your situation involves potentially more oil being used by your compressor, or you are working in a really humid environment, you may want to consider a more robust filtration system to help remove that oil and moisture from the air before it reaches the gun. And typically these type of filters are attached to the wall near where your compressor is. Then you would run a hose from the compressor to the filter and then from the filter out to your spray gun. All right, now speaking of hoses, you're going to need at least one hose to run from your compressor to your spray gun. And if you're using inline filters, like I just mentioned, you'll need a hose that runs from the compressor to the filters and then from the filters to the spray gun. And hoses are available in several different sizes. And the size is actually a measurement of the inside diameter of the hose itself. And what you'll find is there are 1/4 inch hoses, 3/8 inch hoses, and 1/2 inch hoses. And really with a small shop spray system, you can get away with any size hose. The most common is going to be your 1/4 inch hose like I've got here. This orange hose is a 1/4 inch hose. For spraying, I like to use a 3/8 inch hose. And it's important to remember the diameter, that inside diameter, can have an effect on the air pressure coming out of the end of the hose at the filters or the gun. And the smaller that diameter, the more it can restrict the PSI, the pressure coming out. So the larger the hose, the more PSI, the more pressure coming out. Now that's really not a big deal with most spray systems because they have such a low requirement for PSI. However, if you're planning to use your compressor to power other tools, PSI may become an important consideration. And if you're able to produce, 125 PSI at the compressor, but for some reason where the air is coming out at the end is lower than what your tool requires, you may want to consider a larger diameter hose. 3/8 is a good middle ground hose to go with, and that's what I use, and I find it works quite well. Another consideration is the length of the hose. The longer the hose, the more you lose PSI where the air is coming out. So if you're having problems getting the PSI where you need it to be, a shorter hose can help you with that. And hoses are typically available anywhere from 3 feet all the way up to 100 feet. And if you're going to be using inline filters, you're going to need a length of hose to go from the compressor to the filters and then from the filters to the gun. Obviously, I think the best scenario is to have a short hose running from your compressor to the filters, so your filters will be located really close to your compressor. Then a longer hose going from your filters out to your spray gun. That way you can spray further away from your compressor. That's not really a critical issue, but that's one that you should consider as you're laying out your system. And to connect the hose to your compressor as well as your filters and your spray gun, you're going to need a system of connectors. As far as the fittings are concerned, you're going to probably need several to get your whole system connected together. And what you're going to be looking at is these type of quick connectors. And this is a quick coupler, and this is a quick connector plug. And these work together to connect your whole system together. It's kind of hard to do this without the hose. And that's basically how you're connecting your hose to your compressor. Most compressors will have this type of fitting attached to it. On the hose, you'll have a threaded end. Now, when you're shopping for these components, you'll notice they're described as MPT fittings. And what MPT stands for is National Pipe Thread. And it's a standard. It's what these threads are. So they're all the same. This is a male fitting plug and this is a female fitting plug. And the one that you would use will depend on what you need to attach to your hose. So in this case, it's the female threaded plug, and that would then attach to the quick coupler like so. And then you would have at the other end, you would have a fitting. You would probably use a quick connector like this one, which then attaches to your spray gun. So what you're going to want to do is lay out all the pieces, all your hose, your compressor, your filtration, your spray gun, regulator, everything, and then figure out exactly which of these type of plugs you're going to need at each end. And you may even need to use this is a female to female splice so that you can connect a female quick connector plug to a female this sort of thing. It just depends, and every situation is going to be different. Now, these plugs are available in 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch, and 1/2 inch. It doesn't really matter for a small spray system like this which one you use. They'll all work fine. However, you don't want to mix a 1/4 inch plug with a 3/8 inch coupler. You want to keep all the sizes consistent. So that's how the coupling system works. Well, there you have it. That's really all you need to put together a really good spray system. A compressor, a spray gun, and a few items in between. And you'll find that you can do this for a very reasonable price. And once you've done it and actually start to use this, you'll never want to go back to using one of these or one of these. So if you have any comments or questions, be sure to post them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you really enjoy videos about making guitars and some of the tips and tricks that I can share with you, hit that subscribe button. And until the next episode, take care and we'll see you soon.